Hi, welcome Hononegah Honors Algebra 2, Section 3-6, Day 2. We're going to do this one live, so there's actually people in the room as I'm doing this, so this is going to be a little bit unusual, so we'll see how this goes. All right, solving quadratic inequalities with one variable. Basically speaking, we are now not going to be graphing quadratic inequalities, we are now going to be solving quadratic inequalities. So you can solve this in a variety of different methods. Factoring, quadratic formula, any of the methods that we normally might pick, you can still pick to solve a quadratic. So let's get to the first one. X squared plus 4x minus 32 is greater than 0. Treat it just like it's an equal sign. So x squared plus 4x minus 32 equals 0. If I was going to solve this, I would solve by factoring. So I need factors of negative 32 that would add up to 4. So x plus 8 and x minus 4. That would be how you would factor that. So factors of negative 32 that add up to 4. Now the solving part, I would set these equal to 0 and solve. If this was an equal sign question, I'd be done. But it's not an equal sign question. It's a greater than question or an inequality question. Regardless of the inequality, this is the next step. I'm going to make a number line. Those are what's called the critical values. Those are the values on the number line where the graph actually hits the number line. Now, since it's just a greater than and not a greater than or equal to, you're talking about open circles at those locations. So again, equal to, you'd fill those circles in. If it doesn't have an equal to line, then you're going to have open circles. The next step is deciding where it should be shaded. And you only need to really do this one time. It's either going to be shaded, it's always shaded every other one. So it's either shaded on the outsides or it's shaded on the inside in between. So pick any number you want. I usually always pick 0. 0 in this case is located in between. If I put 0 back into the original question, yes or no, does it actually work? And it's the no, right? Negative 32 is not bigger than 0. So if it's not shaded in between, it is shaded on the outside. And so my last step then is to actually write that as an inequality. X is less than negative 8, or x is greater than 4. And that's the answer. Now some people ask, well, how does this really work? Technically speaking, this is what's happening. There's a parabola, and there's the x-axis, and it's being shaded on the outside of the parabola. And so the x-axis is really the number line. So this is the number line from negative 8, and this is the number line from positive 4. So that's what's happening in the visual sense, is really it's the x-axis of a graph. All right, let's try the next one. This one's a little harder to factor. If you're not very good at factoring, then you probably should use the quadratic formula. So now, again, I would probably factor this. So now, 6. 3 times 2 is a good way to get 6. Negative 5 times positive 1 is a good way to get negative 5. Let's check it. I'm a good guesser, so we'll see if this actually checks out correctly. So I got a plus 2x and a minus 15x. It works. How do I go about solving it? I set those equal to 0. X is equal to negative 1/3, and x is equal to positive 5 halves. Number line. And the number line doesn't really need to be very big. I mean, you literally can make yourself a nice little small number line. Negative 1/3 and positive 5 halves. Open or closed circle, this one would be closed. Again, because there's an equal to in the original question up here, I would have closed circles. And now it's a matter of where do I shade this? Do I shade it in between? Do I shade it on the outside? Ultimately, you just need to test one number. In this case, again, I'm going to test 0. 0 is located in between again. By the way, 0 is not always in between, so you got to know where 0 is actually at. If I put 0 back into the original question, the question you have to ask yourself is, does it actually work? Is -5 less than 0? And the answer to that question is yes. So I would shade in between. So how does the answer look then if it's in between? It's less than or equal to 5/2 and greater than or equal to -1/3. It's a compound inequality. It's between -1/3 and +5/2. So if it ends up in the middle, you need to write it as a compound inequality. All right, so next question. What if I told you this wasn't factorable? That adds a whole new twist to things, right? Kind of my methods on how I could actually solve this become a little more limited if I cannot factor. So I would go to the quadratic formula. That's my next go-to move. So -b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The hard part about this, or what we've talked about previously, is known as the discriminant. It's the stuff under the radical. So the 4 squared minus 4 times 2 times -3. And I believe, doing that in my head right now, I believe that's 40. Then I have to simplify the square root of 40, which is 2 square roots of 10. Then, everything's divisible by 2. Do not divide anything that's inside the radical. So the answer to this question is -2 plus or minus the square root of 10 all over 2. Now, this makes for a kind of a funny looking number line, don't get me wrong. I got a -2 minus the square root of 10 over 2. And I got a -10 plus the square root of 10 over 2. So I split. I can technically pick any number I want. 0 is just usually the easiest one. Again, there is no like, hey, you have to pick 0. Closed circles, and 0 is located in between again. Again, that also is not a case. Like, it doesn't always have to be in between. 0 works, by the way. 0 squared, 4 times 0 minus 3, it works. So how would I write my answer? In between -2 minus the square root of 10 and -2 plus the square root of 10 over 2. So that's as hard as I can make this, by the way. That's as nasty as this gets. I do have a couple of questions I want to add to the notes. So you just watch. Those of you at home, just listen. Those of you going to watch the video, just watch again. I want to add some trick questions that I think would be good honors level questions that are not on a quiz and not on a test, but good food for thought more than anything else. All right, x squared plus 6x plus 9 is less than 0. If you guys saw this question, you would probably factor and get one answer. Wait a minute, there's only one answer. So when you're talking about a number line, there's only one critical value. Test a point. Test any number you want. So let's say I tested 0. 0 doesn't work. What if I tested like -5? It doesn't work. So because I only had one value and neither side works, it's actually a no solution. Now I'm going to change one little subtle thing. Neither side works again, but 3, negative 3 does actually work. So this actually has one solution. I'm going to change one other subtle thing, and I'm going to change the graph here. Hold on. Now when I put 0 in, it actually works. And if I try the number on the other side, it works. So this would be all real numbers except negative 3 doesn't work because it's an open circle. One last one here. What if I did this? Now both sides work and negative 3 works, so this would be all real numbers. So again, not going to do this on a test or quiz, but it is interesting food for thought as to what happens if I only had one answer. One last thing before I let you guys go. What happens if I had a negative? Let me try this again. What happens if I had an imaginary solution? So on the number line, there's nothing. It's imaginary. Pick a number, though. Let's go back to the original question. Put 0 in. Works. So every number would work. So if you ever get an imaginary, it's an all or nothing. Because if I change this to a less than, nothing works. So anytime you have an imaginary solution, it's an all or nothing. Literally everything works or nothing works, because what does an imaginary graph look like? And so it's either shaded on the outside, in which the whole number line would be shaded, or it's shaded on the inside, in which none of the number line would be shaded. All right, so your homework assignment tonight is out of the book. Page 145, 27 to 34 all, 37 to 40 all, and number 45. 37 through 40, don't look at the directions, just solve it algebraically. The directions say something else. So again, do it the way we did it in class, not the way they're asking on the directions. All right, if you have any questions, make sure you talk to your teacher, and good luck. Sit.